Support the channel on patreon.com/manlightfoot.
Yo, you ever wonder if you could rock a signature look from the Man of a Thousand Thoughts channel?
No!
Oh. Well, I'll tell you anyway. This channel is officially partnered with TeePublic to bring you some cool merch. There are some great designs that you can put on just about anything. TeePublic offers many different things to rock these cool designs on. From shirts in whatever color you want, to notebooks, to even wall art. You got kids? They can get on this merch with hoodies and onesies. Want these cool designs on your phone? Then look no further. Want to be able to drink my thoughts? Well, I don't even know if that's humanly possible or even why you would want to try doing that, but you can get the closest to that with this awesome mug. Some of these amazing designs are done by the awesome Rosebud and pen and ink creator Super D, so you can rock two kinds of style. Now it all doesn't stop there. You can show off your true respect for animation with the Animation is a Medium variant. Put all the respect on Animation's name by wearing a shirt rocking as a magnet or even as a flag for your front lawn. Now for any of my patrons, you might be wondering if you're gonna get any special deals. Now, what type of man would I be not to give you any type of special deals? Come on now. For $5 patrons, you get an exclusive 30% discount code for all your purchases. For those that want that deal as well, all you have to do is sign up on Patreon or become a YouTube member and you get the code as well. But I'll sweeten things up for everyone. You buy anything from my storefront and send me a picture of you with said item, I'll put it in every video. You get to make everybody jealous as you rock the Man of a Thousand Thoughts brand. Listen, it's not just a thought that you should buy this merch. So go to the link in the description and happy buying. Welcome to Simple Thoughts. Well, it's another episode of Hot Thoughts for Hot Takes, where I take your animation hot takes and either dismantle them or put some merit behind them. This is an idea that I kind of thought actually kind of works. You know, the last video didn't bomb, but I'm honestly liking this idea, and it gives me a means to actually engage with you guys, so I like doing this. I'm pretty much going to be going over some hot takes that I got from the comments of that last video, and I'm also going to be doing some hot takes that I recorded for that last video, but sadly couldn't put in because of time constraints. So if you see me constantly switching between like shirts, that's the reason why. Those are from the previous recording from the last video. So that just sadly got cut out. So don't be freaked out if you're wondering why I'm wearing two different shirts this episode. It's because the footage you see of me in a different shirt than what you're seeing me in right now is from a previous episode. But let's not waste any more time and get right to your hot takes. This one from Elijah the Cartoonist. Rise of the TMNT showcases the Turtles as teenagers better than the other iterations of the franchises. There are some moments in those shows that show them being teens, but they're overshadowed by the overarching stories in them, whereas Rise does try to do a mix of both. That's kind of a major point I was making even in my you were wrong about the Rise of the Ninja Turtles video, because a lot of things people hated about Rise was how the characters acted, but the thing is, they acted like teenagers, you know? That's something people tend to forget, is that the Ninja Turtles are still teenagers, and the way they act is closer to more modern teenagers, you know what I mean? That's something I think people were sort of forgetting, you know, or just kind of neglected, honestly. And I think we got a better mix here where we're seeing more of them being actual teenagers rather than them being always on mission a lot of the time. Sure, they goof around in the other iterations, but I really get a better sense of them being teenagers, you know what I mean? Like, they still act goofy every now and then, they say a bunch of dumb jokes, and some of it can feel cringy, but let's face it, that's teenagers. And that's something I feel Rise got down to a T, you know? Even with the 2012 series, it's like they feel somewhat like teenagers, but they still feel very on mission with what's going on with them. I don't know, like, it feels a bit more like a cartoon idea of it, whereas Rise feels more like an exaggeration, sure, but it feels more close cut to what an actual modern day teenager is like, save for, you know, no cursing. But overall, it's like, I do feel like Rise understood the teenage aspect of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot better than like most other iterations. I really feel like they got it down. Like, everybody's jokes managed to hit a lot better. If anything, I'm a level with you. It feels like the funniest iteration because it kind of understands teenagers a little better in their mindsets and how they act or interact with one another. Like, I genuinely believe, yeah, Rise is the best iteration of the teenage aspect of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I genuinely believe that. This one from Tune for Thought. Well, that's a good channel. You should go subscribe. Sometimes being mid really isn't a bad place to be at all. Disagree. Being mid can effectively hurt big time because of the fact that it's like, you're not so bad, you're funny, and you're not really that good. Like, you're more in a frustrating middle where it's like, and also being mid can also be in the, you're just nothing, you know, you're just so average that you don't do anything significant, you don't do anything unique or good or even that great, you know. You're very much a in one ear out the other, and that actually is more detrimental because that means you're easily forgotten because of the fact that you were just so nothing of a film. Like Lightyear, it's so easily forgotten of a film. It's not interesting. It's a movie that's like, you exist, but I don't need to ever come back to watch you again. You are just not that engaging as a watch, you know, or as something to listen to or anything. That's just kind of the thing. Being mid can be very detrimental because of the fact that it adds more to your forgettability. Being so bad, at least people will remember something really bad, but something so mid usually is more in the forgettable category. That's kind of the problem with something being mid. It's like, you really couldn't stand out. You just exist. You are something that exists, and that is all you do. You do not occupy space in the brain. You know what I'm saying? This one from BRB Getting Silent, cool guy. Modern age Cartoon Network is extremely difficult to get into versus old school Cartoon Network. There is some nostalgia that plays a part, but mostly it feels like the newer shows aren't as interesting. Things like Samurai Jack / Powerpuff Girls / Dexter's Lab / Foster's / Kids Next Door all had extremely interesting starting points, but I struggle to find lasting interest in Adventure Time / Steven Universe, etc. Do you feel the same, or am I just blinded by nostalgia? There's a nuance. There's clear nuance to this. Like, half of it is right, half of it sorta is in the nostalgia aspect, you know? The big thing of note with this is the fact that it's like, we grew up with those shows, like those old shows like Powerpuff and Samurai, and of course we are going to be attached to it because back in the day, those type of things were kind of new and experimental. For us, it's like, yeah, a lot of us do have that mindset of like the old is just better than the new because it is nostalgia. A lot of it is very much nostalgia. And that's why me personally, I always try to break that mold and trying to be like, let's look at new stuff objectively and also look at the old stuff objectively and really assess some things. I personally do find like a lot of the newer things, but like they are doing a lot better than what previous shows could do. Like back in the day, you couldn't talk about certain things, you know, because it's just a matter of that's just not the culture at the time. Like people are just ignorant or very against certain things, you know, certain subject matter just couldn't be in those shows. But nowadays they can actually talk about these things in a genuine manner now because it's like we know we're in a better place socially, you know what I mean? Once you really pay attention, like go back, rewatch it like properly, like don't just watch the one episodes you do remember, like genuinely try to watch the whole thing through. You might start noticing some cracks here and there, you know, like if you watch Dexter's Lab, the first 2 seasons are great, then you get to the 3rd and 4th seasons, that's like the revival seasons, and it's not that great. So Dexter as a whole is tainted by that, and you have to keep that in mind. And the same thing goes for Powerpuff Girls. Like the first 4 seasons, great, but then you get to the 5th and 6th season, and it's like, boy almighty, they really forgot how these characters are supposed to be. You know what I mean? That's what happens, sadly. It's like, that's just sort of the thing. But you can understand why a lot of people feel like the shows of new aren't as strong as the shows of old, because as we were getting older, we were getting to a point that we wanted to see more sort of mature like stuff, and that's why a lot of us moved to like anime, because it was able to give us that stuff. You know, we were evolving, but the cartoons we were watching couldn't evolve with us because people were sort of ignoring the teen demographic. That's why anime ended up having such a massive boom. Even though a lot of us watched it as kids anyway, like we watched, Dragon Ball Z and some stuff that clearly wasn't meant for kids to be watching, or is a bit more high level. Like I watched Big O as a kid. It's Big O. That is not a show kids should be that into because of a lot of the subject matter. But it has giant fighting robots. Who cares? But like that's just that thing is that the shows back then couldn't mature with us, so that's why the shows of now sadly don't really appeal to us as much, because at the end of the day they're still being made for kids, or more or less with kids in mind. So that's why we stick to, a lot of us in our age groups stick to like anime and such, because it's like that gives us our fill of what we want in terms of mature storytelling. Me and many others still watch like modern day stuff and easily get into it. A lot of us still recognizing at the end of the day, it's not going to get that heavy. It can get into some new stuff that the old couldn't. That's the great thing about it. But it can never like get deep like we want it to. Like there's clearly this push for, the more mature stuff to be made. Like that's why a lot of animated adult shows are starting to pick up. Like we got our BoJack Horsemans, Tukas and Birdies, Ricks and Mortys, where they're actually like trying to tackle some genuine stuff rather than just being goofy, over the top violence and sex. So it's just sort of that thing where it is sort of nostalgia is hitting a lot of us. At the same time, it's like you get why some people just can't get into the new stuff, because it's like this is still surface level storytelling for kids, and I'm a grown adult. I kind of already moved on. That's basically the main reason of all of it. It's nuanced, but that at the end of the day, it's like those are the main reasons. This one from Brain Rot. I don't know if you're still taking suggestions, but I got one. Walt Disney ultimately did more harm than good to the Western animation industry. It kind of held too much of a chokehold on the animation industry at the time, because we would constantly only just get theatrical animated movies from Disney. We wouldn't get like a lot of theatrical movies or theatrical animated movies from like other studios. Like hell, Warner Brothers barely like released anything theatrical. Disney did kind of do a lot of harm, but I would also add Hanna-Barbera, because it kind of set the standard for kids animation being kind of cheaply made and then just not really doing anything that unique. I mean, thankfully we got to a better place where there is much more unique stuff, obviously, but it was like, it did set a standard for animation being like cheap looking, like it wasn't until the 90s and such, and to a degree like the 80s more or less, when they decided, okay, we're going to actually really do something like with our animation. Like we're gonna actually more or less the late 80s though, but yeah, they finally realized, let's do something with this. Like let's not make it look so cheap. So yeah, I agree with that. It did do a lot of harm, honestly. This one from Juicy Cartoons. My hot take is that any fandom should not ruin your encouragement of the show. I have half the Owl House fandom blocked, but that does not mean I am not a fan. I guess congratulations for blocking half the fandom. But yeah, that's something I'm a level with you. I've always been irked when people tell me a fandom like is the reason they stopped engaging with a certain subject matter. Like, I don't know, that always bugged me, because I'm just like, the fandom is what got you out of it. Like, to me, that's insane. To me, I'm like, you can just watch the thing without ever having to talk to anybody else who actually watches it. You know that, right? Because that's my thing. Like, I pretty much am always a matter of, I'll just watch the show. I don't give a crap what the fandom thinks. because who cares? As long as I'm enjoying it, I could give less of a shit. So it was always weird to me when people would let fandoms ruin their experience of just watching the show. It's fine if it ruins your experience of talking to other people about it. That's fine. I'm not narking on you if you decide, you know what, I'm just not going to talk to other people about it. Like, some people have that mindset, and that's okay. But in terms of just watching the stuff, consuming the material, just consume the material. Just watch it, man. Just watch it. There's no harm in just watching it. Like, you don't have to reveal, hey, I'm a big fan of this thing. Or you could still be a big fan, like do your fan art or post fan theories and just not engage with people, you know? Like, that's always the thing, is that social media, we kind of put too much emphasis on things. And at the end of the day, it's like, just turn off the screen. That usually turns off a lot of the noise. Like, if you do that, you can avoid a lot of noise, you know what I mean? That's just sort of that thing I think a lot of us need to really understand, is that fandoms should not have the ability to ruin your experience. I genuinely, honestly believe that you should be able to watch whatever you want without the fandoms being the means for you to just stop engaging with something. That just always felt wrong to me. This one from Artiste TB. The future of animation isn't streaming or even big networks. It's indie. So long as indie projects are smart about their financing and team they put together while also finding backers, they can usher in a new wave of animation free from network interference. The thing is, a lot of these indie projects, especially the boom we're kind of seeing right now, understand they're not making these, a lot of them are not making a series, because a lot of these are meant to be series, but when they do these like Kickstarters and Indiegogos and whatever's, it's more in the vein of they're doing it to get a pilot made so they can pitch it to a bigger studio, you know, to a company. You know, that's what a lot of them are trying to do, because they can't get by on just Kickstarter money. That's people are going to be paying out of pocket at that point, and they're going to want an instant return. You know, it's like, yo, new episodes now, because of the fact that it's like, hey, I put money into this now. Whereas in other cases, it's like, all I had to do was just watch. Like, all I had to do was just watch, and now here I am paying for this out of pocket, full on. So it's hard. It's hard to say that's the future of animation, because it can only cover but so much. Like, say for a movie, that's a tall order. You got to be constantly raising millions. I think we're gonna get to a point where we need a mix of both. You know, you have some stuff that's company made, but you have some stuff that's indie made. That's where I think we're more heading towards. I don't think we're heading to just indie. Because, like I said, you got to pay out of pocket for indie projects, and the economy ain't doing too well. Like, people's wallets are hurting, and first thing to go is usually entertainment. And guess what animation falls under? You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't see the future of animation being just indie. I think we'll have a hybrid, like a mix. Like, we have the studio stuff, but we also like the big studio stuff, but we'll also have the indie stuff. I think that's what's the future of, because people like to point to Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel, but the creator of that had a big following to begin with. Most people who just start off trying to make a project, they don't have a big following. You know what I mean? Like, they just start with the big project, and it doesn't really pan out a lot of the time. Like, they tried to raise money, and people didn't show up for it. People didn't donate because either they don't have the money to be just throwing it out there like that, or they didn't even know it existed. I mean, sure, we can shine a light on it, but still raise the problem of, do they have money to be doing that? I'm sorry, that's just the reality of it. And you also got to recognize these indie projects that are coming out now, and they're trying to make a pilot pitch and pitch it to a big studio. You know, that's what they're trying to do a lot of the time. It's not just, oh, we're gonna fund it it's gonna be a series, and it's gonna be funded through just Kickstarter or Indiegogo. They can't do that. That's not gonna pan out well, because people would have to keep paying, and it's just not gonna be a good time. This one from Be Diverse. I feel like Lou should have left Amity alone when it was clear she didn't want anything to do with her at the beginning of the series. I love Lou. She reminds me of a little sister. But if you don't leave that little white girl alone, that's the thing. It's like, if she did leave her alone, Amity would have been in a bad situation entirely. You know, her family was terrible. You know, her mom was so controlling, her dad was pretty neglectful. Like, her siblings were kind of annoying at the beginning, but it wasn't until, like, the whole Enchanted Moon thing happening that they decided, okay, we're gonna change up. Like, I don't know. The thing is, and this is kind of a point I was making in my Nothing Special video most recently, go check that out. Luz is very important to the story, for everyone's stories. It's like, if she never showed up in the Boiling Isles, a lot of things would have went wrong for all those characters, like, or would have stayed wrong, you know what I mean? So it's actually good that Luz kept going, or kind of kept pestering to a degree. It's like, without Luz, Amity wouldn't have never become that better person. So it's just sort of that thing where it's like, she's actually vital. You genuinely need Luz to actually be there, you know? Otherwise, Amity just continues to be sort of a jackass and just continuing to have a bad relationship with Willow and being in a bad crowd and being forced to do what her parents tell her to do, you know? So if anything, it's better that Luz was there. Otherwise, you know, a lot of bad things could have continued to happen. So yeah, if anything, it's great that Luz continued to interfere to a degree, you know? That's just sort of that thing at the end of the day. It's like, the main character is important in this instance. Without them, these characters don't become better. They don't get the better storyline, you know what I mean? Taco Master Studios says, puppets count as animation.
Broly, look! Niggas be wildin'!
See what I'm doing here? Does this count as animation? I'm moving this object. That is not animation. Puppets will never count as animation. Because by that logic, just doing something like this counts as animation. No. just no. That's going to do it for hot takes. Thank you for submitting yours, and always remember to leave a comment with your own hot takes, because maybe they'll make it into the next volume or so. I'm always willing to check these out and see which ones are actually worth some merit or should be dismantled. I always like hearing from you guys, so leave yours in the comments, and always remember, it's just a thought.